So last week was good. I think this week may be better. Although I can't guarantee it. It's not like a Frank Schwab playoff bracket prediction. Welcome, friends, and we truly do offer a heartfelt welcome to another edition of Inside Coverage here in Yahoo. We're here every Monday through Thursday. We have any and everything you need to know, the how and the why in the National Football League. And every Thursday, we do a preview show. This is a Week 12 preview show. The man at my side, as he was on Wednesday, I think we had fun on Wednesday, Charles Robinson. Do you, and I'll explain why in a second, do you believe in ghosts?
Man, you weren't even going to prep me for it. No, I don't. I don't believe in ghosts. I'm not a ghost guy. I'm not.
Okay.
And I'd love to know where this is going.
So here's why I ask. So
is this a Sam Darnold? Control. Are we transitioning to Sam Darnold here?
He's seeing ghosts. No, he's not. So this is my remote control. As we were coming on just now in our home office, over here, off cam, my television turned on. I haven't touched this remote. I haven't pounded the desk, although today has been a frustrating day. I have not pounded the desk and all of a sudden, nope, it just turned on and I have no idea why. This happened earlier, not earlier today, but a couple of years ago. It happened all the time in my living room television. And I actually spoke with an NFL GM about it. We just randomly brought it up because he has that issue as well, like a TV randomly turning on. And we both thought maybe we had a ghost in our house. This TV has never done this.
You have the laziest ghost ever. He's just going around your house, turning TVs on.
Turning TVs on. Not turning them off, right?
It does remind me, though, actually, it was probably about a month and a half ago, 6 a.m, I get up, go to get a drink of water, and the entire studio is lit up. And I'm like, why is the studio lit up right now? And the TV in the studio was on. And I asked Dawn, I was like, did you turn the TV on? She's like, no, I don't ever even go in there. She's like, I would never touch that TV. So I don't know how that happened, but the same deal. I had a TV on in the studio in the middle of the night that I definitely did not turn on. So
the easy explanation is your neighbor has the same brand TV and the remote might have
I never thought of that. Maybe
done that.
Yeah.
I mean, this one's by a window, but there's no neighbor that's.
We do, Andy, we do have ceiling fan wars because our neighbor does have the same ceiling fan in their primary bedroom as we do. And clearly the code comes preloaded. And so we kept trying to figure out, why does our fan turn on in the middle of the night? We've never told them, but sometimes we turn their fan on. It's just the best.
That would be maddening. You wake up in the middle of the night and you're freezing and shivering because your neighbor turned your fan on.
Someday I'll tell them when we're moving out.
That is maddening. Ghost Hunters, years ago, the show on Travel Channel, they're the creepiest episode ever. I like the one in the hat. Google that, okay? And just go, I like the one in the hat. Find
Andrew,
that. It will give you the creepiest creeps of all time. Of course it is, but just go back and watch. Also, go watch Pluribus, the new show on Apple TV. Just watch the first episode. Had dinner with the producer last night. I'm like, okay, sure, I'll watch it. Then I turned it on, a bunch of us at the table, not just me and him. And I was like, oh my gosh, that show is absurd. In a good way. All right, you want to talk about football? Let's talk about football.
Yeah, let's do it. Yeah.
Coming up,
a couple games.
Two things. The greatest quote of the year, and Kevin Clark from This Is Football, friend of the program, will join us. Kevin actually will drop a multiverse. So, yeah, there's that too. Maybe in the multiverse, the Browns have won the Super Bowl. All right, here's the deal. We preview 5 games, the 5 games that mean the most to us. And we're going to open up, and this is a 7-4 week, 7 games early, 4 games late. And there are 4 teams actually, that have buys, the final week for buys. So Miami and Washington, who are both in Madrid, and the Chargers and the Broncos as well. In the early window, we're going to open with the 6-4 Steelers and the 7-3 Bears of Chicago. This is Aaron Rodgers' return to Chicago. Aaron, really good in Chicago. It kind of is his thing. Actually, no, you know what? I got this wrong. You want to open? Bear with me. Let's open with Eagles and Cowboys, okay? Let's open with the late window. I got my order wrong. It was the ghost, okay? It was the ghost. We're going to go 8-2 Eagles, 4-5-1 Dallas Cowboys to open things up. This is a 4 o'clock Eastern time game. This is a Fox game. Burkhardt, Brady, Aaron Andrews, and Tom Rinaldi. It's the 1 seed in the NFC against the 10 seed in the NFC, and it's a rematch from week 1, the Jalen Carter spit game in which the Eagles beat the Cowboys in the Thursday opener in Philadelphia 24-20. Philadelphia, and this is what's crazy, Philadelphia with a victory over the Cowboys, and they have the largest lead of any division leader heading into week 12, can wrap up the NFC East next week. Next week, in week 13, they've won 3 in a row over the Cowboys. That is their longest streak in over 20 years. However, these Eagles don't throw the football. They only run the football, except they're not running the football well either. Horrible passing numbers, but decent efficiency numbers from Jalen Hurts. I don't care, Charles, how they win. They win. They win ugly.
Yeah.
What a horrible problem to have Vic Fangio masterfully coordinating your defense and the offense just figuring out a way to win. Cowboys are a short week. They were on the road. Now they're back at home. I see a scenario in which Dak Prescott can make some plays. I also see a scenario in which the Cowboys can win this game. But I'm not going to go against the Eagles here. They find a way every single week, regardless of the level of concern during the week.
Yeah, I mean, I'll tell you what, this game, I'm sitting there and I'm staring at it after watching the Eagles pound the Lions, at the line of scrimmage. And I'm like, okay, I just want to see these two defensive lines, right? I mean, it's the way that the Cowboys defensive line played against the Raiders. Now it's the Raiders. Raiders are terrible offensive line. I will absolutely grant you that qualifier. But Quinnen Williams looked perfect, like a perfect fit next to Kenny Clark. Donovan Ezeraku had a great game. Just the front end of that Cowboys defense, all of a sudden, to me, has come to life. And it's not in a superficial way. It's all physicality. Now I want to see, what does this look like against the Eagles offensive line? Obviously, like, to me, this is the great measuring stick. We kind of got a taste of, hey, maybe this is what the Cowboys are going to be moving forward. Now they have to stamp it with a real approval against the Eagles. And then I think about the Eagles defensive line, what they did to Detroit. I mean, it seemed like every other play, Jalen Carter, Jordan Davis were knocking down a pass, or Jalen Phillips was pressuring Jared Goff. I think Jared Goff got pressured on like 41% of his dropbacks against the Philadelphia Eagles.
He was totally off all night. It threw everything off.
Yeah. And I mean, both of these lines, to me, maybe what we saw last week was true dominance moving forward. And, the Cowboys offense is what it is. Very good. Look, CeeDee Lamb and George Pickens versus Quinyon Mitchell and Cooper DeJean. It's the matchups all over the place in this game are going to be really tantalizing, but the defensive lines have me really excited.
I really do want to pick the Cowboys. I think the Cowboys offense is humming. I think as we've discussed earlier this week, they have found something. And Quinnen Williams, like you said, had an amazing debut. He had a career high 5 quarterback hits, and he had a sack and a half. I mean, that is a way. Yeah. That is the way to announce this is a good trade, and we've got something going here. I just can't go against the Eagles. I kind of want the Cowboys to win just to make it interesting, just to make
sure.
And they're not going to catch the Eagles, but this would be a fun one. Heading into Thanksgiving, Cowboys coming off a win over the Eagles, and then you get the Chiefs, and we'll get to them in a second, and who knows what that game actually feels like on Thanksgiving. I can't in my heart lock in the Cowboys and say they're going to win. Can we get to the quote of the year? Because it does have to do with the Cowboys. So on Monday night, we saw, and no one wanted to talk about why, but we saw CeeDee Lamb and George Pickens seemingly disciplined and on the sideline for the opening drive of the game. And again, nobody wanted to talk about it. And then on Tuesday and Wednesday, there were these, social media rumors, which I don't like to address, that, they were out late, they were seen partying. CeeDee Lamb was seen throwing up at 7 a.m. Really? Come on, that can't be real. So CeeDee Lamb admitted it was real, but not all of it was real. Look at this. This is from Calvin Watkins, legendary Cowboy reporter. He said that, yeah, he and George Pickens, CD said they missed curfew. They were in Vegas. It was a night game, to be fair, but there is a curfew. That they were having dinner and drinks at Red Rocks. Now, Red Rocks is a suburban casino outside of the Strip. Some teams stay there. I am told the Cowboys were not staying there. So they were at a different place, which is legal, but not at 7 a.m. if that's true. But this, Charles, is the quote of the year. Lamb denied he was throwing up at the casino. He said it's a disrespect to even suggest that. CD says he knows how to hold his liquor. Now, I haven't seen the video of this quote yet, but just paraphrasing. How dare you say that I was throwing up after drinking the night before the game? I might have been drinking, but don't you dare insinuate that I cannot hold my liquor. I mean, really?
It's very Cowboys of him. It fits in with the Cowboys, I feel like, in some ways. Yeah, what? This is a throwback to the good old days, the Michael Irvin days, the White House days.
Oh, God, I don't know about that.
What are we doing?
Yeah, I did it. But don't you dare suggest that I was truly drunk. I might have been drunk. I might have been drinking. But don't you dare suggest that I was vomiting in a casino at 7 a.m. Because I would never do that.
Yeah.
I mean,
and then
is that better, or is the Cam Ward "we AZZ" quote better?
I don't know. Cam's. That's. I think I know you're probably going to take CD on this one. I guess I'd have to see the video
CD's better,
because the actual video of Cam is kind of also what makes it, right? So I want to see how CD said it. If he said it the way it is in my mind, it's going to be CD. But I mean, I just want to see the aghast look. How could you ever think that I couldn't hold my liquor? Good Lord.
It's like an argument with your parents. Like, oh yeah, I missed curfew. And oh yeah, I might have been drinking. Oh yeah. But don't you dare suggest that I threw up.
Yeah.
No. That's not that sound you heard at 3 a.m.
God,
down the hall at all. How dare you? All right, let's move on to the Chiefs. So this is the game. This is the must-win game for Kansas City. I'm calling it a must-win game. I mean, everybody is. Yeah. And like I said, I kind of regret that I said they're done. They're not done. Indianapolis is 8-2, the 3 seed. Kansas City is 5-5. They are the 9 seed. This is a Nance and Romo and Tracy Wolfson game. The Colts are coming off a bye. They were in Berlin. They won in overtime. Jonathan Taylor had 244 yards on the ground and 286 from scrimmage. To say they're done would be idiotic, but I did it. Just keep this in mind. The Chiefs' season has not ended earlier than overtime in the AFC Championship game since Patrick Mahomes became the starter in 2018.
Crazy.
Let that sink in.
Nuts. Yeah.
It's completely nuts. But what's also nuts is that if you were to stack the worst records in the NFL against teams that are currently in the playoff bracket, it goes as such. The Saints are 0-7 against playoff teams. The Titans are 0-6 against playoff teams. The Cardinals are 0-6 against playoff teams. The Jets are 0-5 against playoff teams. And the Chiefs, Charles, are 0-5 against playoff teams. The Colts are a playoff team, and they get after the quarterback. They're top 10 in sacks and quarterback hits. This is a Colts win, but now I'm having all these second thoughts, and I can't go against the Chiefs because they're backed into a corner.
Yeah, and they're at home, right? That's what I was the same way. I was looking at this game, and I thought I like the Colts. Especially the Chiefs have struggled against teams that can rush the passer and that have strong secondaries. Well, guess what? The Colts can get after the passer, and they had a pretty good secondary before they added Sauce Gardner. So now you throw Sauce Gardner into that. Now he's getting acclimated. So I kind of thought, man, it's from a defensive standpoint, good matchup for the Chiefs, or a good matchup for the Colts. And I could not get out of my mind the reality that I think if you consistently run the football against the Chiefs, if you can consistently try to create a physical environment against that defensive front, they will start to wither late in games. I keep thinking about the Buffalo game where I'm sitting there and I'm watching. I'm like, how is Chris Jones getting pushed back 5-6 yards right now in the fourth quarter? They just look gassed. And if there's anything that Indianapolis can do, it can be commit to the run and just keep pounding it. Go and go and go. And then Jonathan Taylor's going to start to break you in the third quarter and the fourth quarter. That's the window I see. That's how I see the Colts winning this game, because I also have some reservations about Daniel Jones. Daniel Jones has been sacked 12 times in the last 2 games. 12 times. He's fumbled 6 times. He's lost 3 of those. He's thrown 4 interceptions. This, to me, I don't want to say it's a referendum game for Daniel Jones, but we are starting to get to a point where I need to see the bounce back. I need to see him figure out how to protect himself, get the ball out on time or quicker, do what needs to do to make sure that he's not taking that many sacks. And for God's sake, stop fumbling the football. So last game, 3 fumbles. He only lost 1, but the ball security, he has that ball security against the Chiefs. They are definitely going to lose this game on the road.
I'm looking down at my phone here. I apologize for messing up my eye line here, but I as we were set to record this, Daniel Jones came up as limited Thursday. Something to keep an eye on. Limited with a calf injury. You hate. That's a 4-letter word, calf injury. You got to be careful with those. So I'm not suggesting that this is an Anthony Richardson game, but or I'm sorry, a Riley Leonard game. But if it is a Riley Leonard game, well,
I feel slightly
better. It becomes that much more interesting on Thanksgiving, right?
You said Anthony Richardson, I'm wilting. But then when you said Riley Leonard, I was like, well, maybe that's a little better.
So
poor Anthony Richardson.
To speak to the Chiefs' issues here about the playmakers, Patrick Mahomes, of all quarterbacks, look, he's mobile. He's not Lamar Jackson, not even Drake May this year. Leads all quarterbacks with 516 total yards on scrambles. Guys aren't getting open. All right, that's an issue here for them. This is a great game. Most of America is going to see this game in an early window. It is a Fox doubleheader day, not a CBS doubleheader day. So if you are in one of those markets where your team doesn't have a game on CBS this week, you're going to get this one. Most of America will get this one. All right, coming up, we have ridiculously fantastic games between division leaders this week, including one in LA. What gives between the Bucs and the Rams? That's on Inside Coverage coming up. It's Inside Coverage on Yahoo. Welcome back. Andrew Siciliano, Charles Robinson, and the ghost that turned the television on in my home office. Dan Orlovsky's waving his hands on my TV right now off camera. He's over there, and I did not turn it on. Not that I have any problem with Dan Orlovsky. I'm just kind of creepy. All right, let's get back to the games. The games that mean the most to us. And we're going to open this segment with a great Sunday night game. This is a game between 2 division leaders. It is the 6-4 NFC South leading Tampa Bay Buccaneers on the road against the 8-2 seed in the NFC because they lost to the Eagles back in September. Los Angeles Rams. This is the Sunday night game. Mike Tirico, Chris Collinsworth, and Melissa Stark. There are some serious injuries here. Obviously, look at Jamel Dean's status. Follow that up until the end of the week. Defensive back, as the Bucs are giving up all kinds of big plays down the field the last couple of weeks. For the Rams, right tackle Rob Havenstein is out. He is on injured reserve. And also, Tyler Higbee is out, which is huge. He's 2 on IR. Rams have played all this 13 personnel the last couple of weeks and really all year. Can they do that without Tyler Higbee? I don't know. And also Quentin Lake, who joined the show last week, who is going to clean up, Charles said, in free agency. He is on IR as well. He needed elbow surgery. The Rams are hoping, fingers crossed, that he can get back for the postseason. It certainly looks like they're going to make it there. So fingers crossed that he is back. Again, a game between division leaders, which is the Steelers and Bears as well, but they are in different conferences. Here we have two teams in the same conference. The Buccaneers have a half-game lead over Carolina in the NFC South. The Rams obviously lead the West at 8-2, and they're 8-2 or better this deep in the season for the first time since 2018. And in 2018, they went to the Super Bowl. Charles, it's hard to put into words, and I know we've beaten the drum here on this show about Matthew Stafford and his MVP chances, but how well he is playing. And this is despite a pretty average to down week last week in their victory over the Seahawks. Since week 4, Charles, Matthew Stafford has 22 touchdowns and
zero interceptions.
Zero interceptions. I think this is the game where he activates the deep ball again. The Bucs have given up 5 touchdowns of 40 or more yards the last 2 weeks.
Yeah, I mean, this is the Puka Nacua, Devontae Adams, duel. Yeah. These two guys can go back and forth and see who finishes the day with the higher receiving total. Yeah, Stafford's playing out of his mind. This is the 2018 Stafford. This is who they traded for. This is the guy that, we can look. I'll just tell you, in my mind, I think that whole training camp thing where it's like, we're holding him out because there's this issue. It's his back. He tweaked it. He did this. He did that. And I was there the day that supposedly happened. Now looking back on it, I remember thinking, I talked to Sean McVay and he just kept reiterating over and over. He goes, "Look, man, we don't care about anything, but when we get into November and December and January, having Matthew Stafford healthy and playing his best football." I should have thought right then, is this real? Are they manufacturing a reason to keep him?
Do you think it was manufactured?
I part of me thinks it is now. I really do. I wonder.
Really?
I wonder how much of that was as bad as they thought it was.
See, I guess there's you could argue as to, or not argue. I think it's open to discussion how bad it truly was, but it was something. Because I was
because they had the therapy. They had the therapy bus there and all that. I remember all that. Maybe it was something.
That seemed a little extreme, but it's LA. Yeah. I mean, everyone's got red light therapy in their home. I mean, it's like everyone's got their own. Everybody on every corner in LA is trying to convince you that they have some new miracle cure. So the fact that the Rams had a truck for Matthew Stafford's back is totally on brand here in LA. But I was talking to people back then, and no one said it isn't a thing. There was a lot of, we don't know. We hope his back can hold up. Nobody was truly concerned that, oh my God, we're going to have to shut him down. But at least what I was hearing, there was a legitimate, we're in the dark. We don't know how bad this could be.
Maybe they were just overly cautious. I can't get over how much McVay kept hitting on over and over. We don't care about this month. We don't care about, August 27th. He just straight up said to me, "Look, I have no problem handing it over to Jimmy Garoppolo for the duration. And when we kick off in week 1, Matt rolls in, we're good. As long as it means he's healthy at the end of the season." If that's all they wanted, that's what they got. Because this guy, this is arguably as good as he's looked. And as you said, he had technically a down week for him against Seattle last week, but decisive, accurate. He's unlocked everything they thought they could get out of Devontae Adams. That was another thing. I remember McVay was like, "Hey, if you play fantasy football, go get Devontae Adams because he's going to blow up. Even with Puka next to him, he's going to have a huge role. He's going to lead the league in
1-yard touchdowns."
Yeah, but look, they figured out how to keep everybody happy. There's a lot of dogs at that bowl. They're running the football well. That's another thing. And as you said, you're going to play a Tampa Bay defense that's hurting on the back end right now. I'm very scared for. Either they're going to get to Stafford up front and that's going to, stop this from being a boat race, or they're not, and they're going to be in some serious trouble. I want to run this past you, though, about Tampa. This kind of blew my mind. I'm going to break eyeline here. I'm going to tell you right now. Tampa, the Buccaneers, 6 of their last 7 games. Philly, Seattle, San Francisco, Detroit, New England, Buffalo, and now the Rams. This team is about as battle-tested as it could be. This team has played absolute titanic opponents over the last month and a half of football. Now, let me rattle off the remainder of their schedule here. And I would tell people, even though Ben Fox is not here, this is for Ben Fox. If you want, I don't know what the odds are right now on the Bucs capturing the number 1 seed in the NFC, but if they beat the Rams this weekend and they move themselves to 7-4. No, just listen. If they beat the Rams and they move themselves to 7-4, here's the remainder of their schedule: Arizona, New Orleans, Atlanta banged up, Carolina, Miami, Carolina.
Right.
It's not completely inconceivable that this team could, if they were to beat the Rams, run off 7 to close the season and finish at 13-4. I'm just saying it now. I don't think it's going to happen.
You're more of a believer than me. So
I don't think it's going to happen.
I don't think it is either. But to your point about the road that they've taken to get to SoFi, the Bucs and the Rams are tied for the toughest strength of schedule played so far among the 14 teams that currently have a playoff spot. But if you flip it around, let's say if they lose, okay? So let's say the Rams beat them. That means on Monday night, the Panthers will take the field in Santa Clara with the chance to take over first in the NFC South.
Right.
The Carolina Panthers.
Also,
with the two head-to-heads coming up against the Bucs.
Okay. The Carolina Panthers also, and I love them to death. Dan Morgan, love Dan Morgan, great dude.
Yeah.
Like, he's always, spent taking time with me. Like, I like what's going on in Carolina, but my thing with that is it's just, that team is from one week to the next kind of all over the place. So I'm just saying, I'm not saying that the Buccaneers are going to do this, but health permitting, they can get a little healthier. Whatever the odds are, say they beat the Rams, I would go out and put some money on the Buccaneers just to see if maybe there's an outside chance something crazy happens and they catch fire.
That is nuts. And this is a cool homecoming, like a 6-week. Hey, he was here. He had an extended vacation here. He got an Airbnb for a month for Baker Mayfield. Go back a couple of years ago, the Panthers, there's the Panther tie-in, cut him. Matt Rule had been fired. Steve Wilkes was interim head coach. They got rid of him. I thought Baker took an unnecessary shot at Steve Wilkes a few weeks ago, like it was his decision as the interim head coach to cut the guy. Anyway, Baker came here. He showed up on a Tuesday, and then he played a home game on a Thursday against the Raiders. I remember when they claimed him off waivers, I texted somebody with the Rams, like, there's no way he gets ready for Thursday, right? And I got back, oh, Sean says it's going to happen. I'm like, what? Huh? Really? And yeah, he went out there. I was at that game. It was one of the crazier things I have ever seen in my life. Now, it's not as if Baker just racked up 500 yards and was marching up and down the field. No, they were going to lose to the Raiders. Patrick Graham was DC, still the DC now today. They were going to lose to the Raiders. But he put together a ridiculous drive, made some scramble drill plays, found a couple of, and then it hit Van Jefferson for a touchdown, in which Raider fans are still mad at Patrick Graham there for, I believe it brought a zero blitz, whatever the heck he did. He threw the touchdown. And it was one of the crazier things I've ever seen in my life. I don't know that he's going to have that kind of day, but I can say I am happy for Baker that he was able to find a new football life in Tampa, and it is pretty cool. The MVP votes aren't going to be there anymore as we thought they were 2 weeks ago. I'm sorry, 6 weeks ago. But hey, if your version of the multiverse here, Charles, has the Buccaneers winning those games as you just laid out, then yeah, give him the MVP. If he could do what you just laid out,
maybe.
God bless.
Maybe. One quick note too. I'll bring this up because it was a terrible call on my part. After Baker had signed with the Buccaneers, I was talking with McVay. The ensuing off season, heading up into camp, and I just nonchalantly, we were talking about different quarterbacks or whatever, and I nonchalantly dropped, I think this will be Baker's last year as a starting quarterback. I was like, and I said, I don't think you can go through this many teams and still be a starting quarterback in this league. And McVay straight up was like, you're wrong. He's like, you're wrong. McVay believed in him. McVay said, I think it's going to work for him. He said, I think he's ready to settle down and it's going to click for him and he's going to be a good football player in Tampa Bay. And I've never forgotten that. And I feel so stupid for just saying that so nonchalantly in front of the guy who coached him, for 6 weeks.
Sean has an amazing ability to connect with players and to talk ball with them and to get them believing in themselves, but also to just, he has this legitimate enthusiasm to learn ball from anyone. Like even like a practice squad linebacker. Like, hey, tell me about like you just came from wherever. Like, tell me about like what your coach was doing there with that crazy blitz package. Like, and he just leans in and he wants to know. And that energy works both ways. Like, it makes those players believe that they do have it, that they do have institutional knowledge, they do have the ability, they do have a future in this league. And I'm not saying Sean McVay totally turned around Baker Mayfield's career, but Baker does give Sean and the Rams credit for becoming the guy. And obviously Liam Cohen was there, and then Liam went to Tampa. And then, look, Rams have had a lot of great coaches come through there, or coaches that have learned and then gone on to become head coaches. I think Chris Shula, by the way, is the overlooked one. And no one ever thought that was going to happen a couple of years ago, but now he's getting his shot as the Rams DC. All right, so there's the Rams and the Bucs. Let's go back to the Steelers and the Bears. Go back to where the ghost initially took us. The Steelers and the Bears in the early window. This is a game between division leaders, but two different conferences. The 6-4 AFC North leading for now Pittsburgh Steelers, the 4 seed, and the 7-3. Frank Schwab hates them, calls them frauds. Chicago Bears, the 3 seed in the NFC. Ian Eagle, JJ Watt. JJ, by the way, thanks for the retweet yesterday. And Evan Washburn on the call. Steelers have lost 3 out of 5 after opening 4-1. Bears have won 6 out of 7 as they try to win the NFC North for the first time since Matt Nagy's first year back in 2018. So if you look at the NGS numbers, the next gen stats numbers, this is what Bears fans hate. So these two teams, C-Rob, have the lowest percentage chance to make the playoffs of the teams that are currently leading their divisions. Okay?
Man.
Next gen has the Steelers at 39 and the Bears at 59. And next gen has for them to win their division the Steelers at 26 and the Bears at 23. Bears keep all these games in the last 2 minutes. That should be held against them. I think the way Aaron Rodgers playing, I think the Bears turn him over and the Bears win this game. I know it's to say he owns Soul Talk yesterday about, having WGN as a kid. He loved watching the Cubs and the Bulls, and he truly does love the city of Chicago. Cool. But Bears fans, they will have a parade if they can beat Aaron Rodgers and get some breathing room. And I think they do.
Yeah, I mean, it's always going to be personal for Bears fans, no matter who Aaron Rodgers would play for coming in. It's going to be, not a Super Bowl game for them, but pretty close. The regular season Super Bowl for them would be to beat Aaron Rodgers as often as they possibly could. Look, I think I'm with you. I think that when I look at the Bears right now, I still think there's some functionality that's being worked in offensively from Ben Johnson. I still think, look, there's receivers that are dropping balls at times. I still think he's trying to figure out how to utilize Colston Loveland and grow that role while sharing offense with Rome Odunze, while keeping DeAndre Swift involved. And I think, Caleb, there's still inaccuracy issues down the field when guys aren't dropping the ball. He's still, near the league bottom in terms of, on target accuracy with some of his throws. But that said, all you do is continue to see progress, both, I think, mentally, physically. I think in terms of his emotion, you see growth from Caleb Williams. And then I look at the Pittsburgh Steelers, and this is kind of interesting. I had a chance to talk to somebody about the Steelers, and, we were talking a bit about DK Metcalf and really like the last 4 games, the struggles of the Steelers trying to keep DK Metcalf. And if you look on the balance of the season, really he's had 2 big games. He's had a couple big games, but that has not been consistent. And especially the last 4 games, his production has dipped. You have not seen the big plays downfield. And the sense I got was that we're getting to a point in the season where Aaron Rodgers, for that to develop, teams have kind of figured out roll a safety toward DK. We don't feel like other guys scare us in this offense. And we're not going to let DK beat us. and we're going to try to get to Rodgers and make him make a decision quickly. Well, DK's running routes, typically, particularly when you talk about skill set, those deep routes take time at times to develop. And Aaron's trying to get the ball out. He doesn't have time to, stand around and potentially get hit and hurt. And he's trying to get the ball out repeatedly, constantly, fast. And I think that's affected DK Metcalf's role in this offense. I think they're going to have to figure out how to resolve that. I understand Aaron Rodgers got to protect his health, and now he's got the left wrist issue. But you have to be able to use DK downfield as your weapon, and that's going to constitute needing some time in the pocket to let it develop.
So week 6, I saw Rodgers in person, and he was able to get DK Metcalf on a sluggo for like a 35-yard, 40-yard touchdown, beat Tyson Campbell in his first game right after the trade from the Browns. But if you go back and you look at the tape from last year with the Jets, you're right. He doesn't want to get hit. No quarterback wants to get hit, but he's throwing smokes, bubbles, slants, or back shoulders down the sideline. That's it. And they have to design that offense. To your point, Arthur Smith has to design that offense to limit his exposure. And yes, there are limitations, clearly, to that offense. But yeah, it's a good point. You knew what you were getting in DK. I mean, it's not like you didn't have 5 years or 6 years of film on him. You knew what you were getting. He's still explosive. Right. And by the way, he could still take one of those slants like he did in Dublin and go 85 yards. Absolutely. To show the world-class speed and then the ability to run guys over in the final 10 yards against the Vikings and get into the end zone. He has that, but it's hard to get a slant to go for 80 yards every week. That's difficult.
And it's interesting. I think that's why we're starting to see like a Darnell Washington starts to factor more into the offense, because look, even if Darnell's out there and he's not necessarily in there to run a pattern, he's another offense. We talked about this yesterday. He's like another offensive tackle out there that can help protect Aaron. 311 pounds. You do, Andrew. You do weigh-ins every week.
you do weigh-ins every week. Yeah, I mean, come on.
Great.
Yeah. All right. Darnell Washington is 311. I'm going to take the Bears there, and just so you know, if you go to the Yahoo Sports Instagram page and you see Frank Schwab saying the Bears are frauds, you should follow Yahoo Sports, by the way, on Instagram and on all your social media platforms. I was just teeing Frank up. I disagree with him. Frank is the one who thinks they're frauds. Okay? He put his name on.
Frank's always getting somebody. He's always getting somebody in trouble.
I'm not throwing anyone under the bus. It's in my Instagram feed right now. I saw it this afternoon. But you see me nodding. All right. I don't agree with Frank. I don't agree with Frank. I like the fact that Caleb Williams has 5 end of game drives. Hold on, let's get the perfect stat here. Let's get the right stat to give Caleb his credit. Caleb has 5 game-winning drives in the fourth quarter or in overtime. That's the most in the NFL. Most game-winning drives in a single season in Bears history. He has as many fourth quarter and overtime game-winning drives this year as he had wins last year. Think about that. So, Caleb Williams has a bottom 5 completion percentage in the NFL. He is in J.J. McCarthy, Cam Ward, Dylan Gabriel territory. He is. But he's getting explosives, he is making plays with his legs, and he's leading game-winning drives. So, Bo Nix, J.J. McCarthy, they only turned it on until the fourth quarter. Okay, sure, say that about Caleb if you want, but it has been spectacular in the fourth quarter. Coming up here on Inside Coverage, Kevin Clark will join us, one of my favorite people here from This Is Football. I'll ask him, who is Shedeur Sanders? Well, not really, but we will talk that guy, Shedeur Sanders, who is starting at quarterback this week for the Browns in Las Vegas, and try to make sense of what the Philadelphia Eagles are. That is coming up next on Inside Coverage. All right, so this is really cool, and I love that this guy is on the show. There are a few people about whom, whenever I repost their work on social media, I always like to say, hey, always read or always listen to or always pay attention to this person. And this guy is on that very short list. His name is Kevin Clark. He does a show called This Is Football, Omaha, ESPN. You can watch it on all their platforms. And he joins us live now on this show, which is Inside Coverage, wearing a badass Magic hat. It's good to see you, man.
Thank you. I'm glad you recognize the badass Magic hat. I'll say this. I was in Orlando a couple weeks ago, and I spent what I consider a normal amount of money at the Magic team store because they got the old logo back. So everything in the store has the old logo. So I told my wife after, I said, hey, I spent this much money. It was a lot of money. But again, I think there's no price you can put on getting this old logo back and getting as many things as you want. But apparently, to normal people, they don't see it the same way I do, and they might have said that's probably too much money to spend at the Orlando Magic team store. I disagree.
Did you have anxiety going through the store trying to figure out what to buy and what not to buy and what fits and what doesn't fit? Because I was just back at Syracuse a couple of weeks ago for the first time in like 10 years at least. And I walked into my favorite off-campus store that has all the gear. And I had to come back a second time because I had such decision anxiety that I'm like, I'm going to come back tomorrow morning without people there saying, let's go, because I need to try stuff on. And I spent way too much money.
It's unbelievable how I'll get like University of Miami, for instance. There was a golf company that came out with a University of Miami line recently, and I bought them out, and I got it, and I was like, oh, that was so cheap. And then it's like, that could have been an iPad. I could have bought an iPad with that. And yet, and now I have 3 polos and a hoodie. Why did I do that for? But you know what? Always worth it.
Yeah, always worth it. Let's talk football here. Week 12. Week 11 was great. That was the best weekend of the year. You look at the Week 12 games, you're like, all right.
You think so?
Well, maybe Week 12 is going to one-up Week 11. And then you circle the Chiefs and the Colts, and you go, I didn't think this was going to be a game, but it is a game. And it might be, I can't believe we're saying this, like the last chance for Patrick Mahomes and the Chiefs in Week 12, which is absurd. Do you buy that they must win this game, or are you kind of like me and saying that he's the monster, he's the bad guy in the movie where he's not ever dead? Like you can never actually say that he's out of it until mathematically he's out of it.
Kyle Long was on my show this week, and he compared him. I didn't watch Game of Thrones, but apparently there's a scene where Pedro Pascal defeats the Mountain in Game of Thrones, and he's celebrating, and the Mountain gets up and rips his face off. He said that's what you always have to worry about with Patrick Mahomes, is that you're celebrating over top of his body, and then he'll rip your face off. He's Pedro, and like Pedro Pascal, Patrick Mahomes is in everything we watch, by the way. But it's a must win in the sense of it becomes a math problem at some point, Andrew. Like this isn't the college football committee. You're not going to put the Chiefs in there because of the eye test. At some point, you're going to have to win enough games to make the playoffs. They're 5-5. If you say they're 5-6, are they going to run the table from there? Are they going to go 5-1? Like it just becomes a math problem. And also, when you're playing as many one-score games as them, you might drop one. Someone might fumble on the last possession of the game, whatever. It's a math problem. So they need to start winning very, very soon. I don't think it's a statement about where they are. I think if they played the Colts in January, they'd win. But this isn't about statements. It's about math. It's about them getting to January and getting to the tournament. And so I'm not that worried about them. I think they'll click from a eye test standpoint. I'm worried about them just getting there because it's just a little things, like I saw the other day, Patrick Mahomes' second best GPA performance of his career this year. The offense, at least, is performing in a statistical way. The problem is situationally, is that they're giving up more third and longs than they ever have on defense. They're going 3 and out more than they ever have on offense. It's just little things situationally, and I think 31 other franchises would kill for those sort of problems. That in the 8th year of your dynasty, things are a little bit off, but you still have the ingredients there. I think, and I saw the stat the other day that Mahomes is amazing this year against zone coverage and really bad against man coverage, and that to me is a weapon stat. That to me is the guys, Xavier Worthy, Hollywood Brown. Any of these guys have not developed in the way in that offense that we thought they were going to. It's still Travis Kelce on option routes, which has been for the past 3 years, but Travis Kelce's getting older and he's not the force he once was. So I believe in the team. I just don't know if they're going to have the opportunity in January to do anything if they don't get going very, very quickly.
Yeah, I think part of it as well is simply a regression to the means when it comes to luck. Last year they were 10-0 in one-score games. This year they're 0-5. in one-score games. Last year they had doinks with kickers they just signed a week ago off the upright on a Sunday night to win a division, and blocked field goals in Denver to win games that maybe they shouldn't have won. This year, they're not going to get those breaks. You make your own breaks. Granted, however, the stat there about zone shows that those guys haven't fit in. Brashard Smith, explosive player, but he's not been the game changer that they thought they were getting when they said, hey, we need more juice on offense. Let's draft this guy. I'm totally with you. By the way, best Pedro Pascal role. Is it Last of Us? Is it Mandalorian, even though the helmet's on the whole time? What is it?
That's a great question. I know. First of all, he's good in everything. I haven't seen the new Fantastic Four, but that seems really good. Seems like it might be right up my alley. I'd go with Mandalorian. I'd say for now.
Again, even though the helmet is on,
even though the helmet is on. The problem is, there's like 100 movies, so like it's so hard to choose from. You know, it would take 3 podcasts to rank them.
Mandalorian is great, but Andor is so above and beyond any and everything Star Wars has ever done since the original trilogy that I kind of feel Mandalorian almost feels like a kid show now in comparison. Mm-hmm. Are you a Star Wars guy?
I haven't.
Are you? No?
I watched the first season of The Mandalorian. I've not seen Andor. Haven't seen it. Having said that,
Andor.
So this is true of my Harry Potter as well. I did not necessarily get on the bus with Harry Potter or Star Wars when I was a kid, but now I'm waiting for my kid to be aware of it, and then we can go, like, when he is old enough to read, which he's 2.5. Let's get going here, guy. All right, let's get the show on the road. All right, we need to be advanced. But I want to like experience that with him. So I'm abstaining from any further Star Wars at that point.
Yeah, that was really cool with my brother and his kids, especially his oldest daughter, who's now a freshman in college, which is absurd. When she got to reading the Harry Potters and the Star Wars, they could sit down and watch all those movies and read all those books again and experience that again. Real quick on Andor, if you do watch it, Andor to me is the Star Wars equivalent of like a Sunday night show on Apple or a Sunday night show on HBO. The writing is so good. It's all the political undertones that George Lucas wanted to write about and kind of dip the toe into, but truly couldn't go there, at least not with that full development. And that's what Andor is. It is so well acted and so well scripted and timely politically. It is a fantastic show. But I digress. Make sense of the Eagles for me, because they win. They could actually wrap up if they beat the Cowboys, there's a scenario and a likely one where they wrap up the NFC East next week, week 13. Yet they have, if you go last year and this year, they are ranked when it comes to passing yards as low as any back-to-back playoff team since the mid-90s Barry Sanders Lions. Should we care?
No, we shouldn't. Here's the problem when you're talking about the Eagles. It seems like 2 years ago was an anomaly in which they started 9-1, and Jason Kelce said they were the most miserable team on earth, and then it turned out they couldn't. No one thought they were going to a playoff game. They didn't. They went to Tampa and they got the break speed off them. Okay, but it seems like they thrive in chaos as an organization, and I'm going to put that at the feet of Howie Roseman, who drafts and stacks talent in a way that the ultimate ripcord is having a guy who can develop as the season goes on, right? Or having a guy, or making a trade, or your Jalen Phillips a couple weeks ago, right? That stuff matters in December and January. So the fact that they almost always have one of the most talented rosters in football helps them weather this storm. If there was very little margin for error, we'd be having a different discussion. But I look at this Eagles team. We were talking about this last year. I mean, how many times have we had the A.J. Brown drama? Like 3 times. How many times have we had the Eagles have lost faith in the locker room and Jalen Hurts? Like, we had it maybe a couple times before but that was happening last year too. We had the whole thing with the Brandon Graham radio show. And so it just seems like if there's not chaos, that's when you should worry. But this team seemed to thrive on it. That media market seems to enjoy stoking the flames, and then the Eagles enjoy shutting them up. It seems like it's all part of the show. Like it's almost bait and switch. We're all falling for this again, and we're going to say, "Oh man, the Eagles are here. They're going to figure it out. They're going to figure it out in January, win a playoff game." So I don't They're going to figure it out because, as the talent I already said, Vic Fangio, the defense, everybody's blaming the OC. Now there's all these conspiracy theories about whether Jalen Hurts is running the OC's offense or trying to sabotage whatever. I don't think any of this is going to matter in January. I don't. And I think that we mentioned, just getting to the tournament with the Chiefs, they're going to get there. They're going to might have home field the entire way. They're going to have the grace to figure it out. And the fact that they're so talented still, the fact that their roster on both sides of the ball is so good, I'd say that maybe the offensive line isn't as good as it has been in years past, and especially we'll see what's going on with Lane Johnson. But I still think they have the most talented roster in the NFC. And if I had to guess, anybody who's going to win the NFC, be them or the Rams right now. And I don't think you can do anything other than flip a coin.
Yeah, it's such a first world problem that Vic Fangio's defense is playing well and that the offense isn't playing well enough, and that the defense is carrying the offense, yet the offense still has Jalen Hurts and Saquon Barkley and Devontae Smith and A.J. Brown and Dallas Goedert and Tank Bigsby's playing well, and Will Shipley would be some team's number one back. Wow, what an issue to have. They're winning ugly. Since when is winning ugly the sign of some kind of major weakness? Can they get better? Yeah, of course they're going to get better. But you really want to go in there and
funny story about that.
Philadelphia and find a way to beat them in January? I don't.
I completely agree. And so I had run into somebody I know played for an NFC East team last September. And he had said that he played against the Eagles and that when he played against them, this was the year they were miserable. But when the story was telling was that the offense and the defense were, and I've told the story on my show, but they were chirping at each other. Like the Eagles offense and the Eagles defense were chirping at each other. And he told me the players that were doing it, and they were still on the team. And they were like, I think it was after a turnover, the defense was kind of yelling at the offense. They're saying, "What are you doing? You're hanging us up to draw stuff." And so this guy told me the story, and he was like, "Man, the Eagles, it doesn't seem like they have a great locker room. They won the Super Bowl. They won the Super Bowl." And I'm sitting here thinking, maybe that's just part of it. Maybe the fact that, and it reminds me a little bit, Andrew, of those great Seahawks Legion of Boom teams where there was always a little tension and they harnessed it in a really good way. They harnessed and they were blunt and they were honest, and they used to have team meetings together in Seattle with different position groups where they could just air out the grievances. It was like Festivus. There was an airing of the grievances. And I kind of think in Philadelphia, there's constantly an airing of the grievances in maybe a really healthy way. And maybe that's why they're able to figure it out in January, is that they're just honest with themselves. They're honest with just inside that building. They're honest with the media. Maybe sometimes, maybe we think it's too much, but they seem to be handling it quite well. Nick Sirianni seemed to always push the right buttons in the media sessions. So I don't know what it is. I mean, you go back 7 years ago, I was in LA, maybe you were too, when Carson Wentz tore his ACL. I'm not sure I've ever seen a more defeated locker room in my entire life, because they went from having an MVP candidate to our season's done. Okay. And then Doug Peterson sat down with Nick Foles, figured out the couple of concepts that they wanted to run over and over and over again, the routes, the RPOs, all that stuff. And then boom, they win the Super Bowl. They always seem to figure it out as an organization. And I'm done reading in, just making a mountain out of a molehill. I'm done doing any of that stuff. I'm going to default to trusting the Eagles like I trust every other really good team in this league.
Yeah, same here. And there's two sides to this, because I think that the NFL media establishment, and it runs deep, is conditioned to whenever Howie Roseman acquires a player, it's, oh my God, Howie did it again. Oh my God, look at the stacked roster. Yet I was there for a joint practice for a couple of days in July, and I'm standing there in the middle of the field looking around going, holy, you know what? The amount of talent on this roster. Now, some of it, I believe, is, I want to say overrated. Maybe we think more highly than it really is, than they really have, simply because Howie put it together and like Howie can do no wrong. That's not true. There is a list of moves he has made the last couple of years. You're like, oh, that didn't work out. But I respect the aggression. And then you see the roster and like, yes, they're talented. They are deep. Now their offensive line depth is going to get tested, severely tested right now. And that offensive line is going to have to find a way to clear some space for a run game that is noticeably different than a year ago. It's like 80 yards different than a year ago, but it's good enough to win. And that's all that matters. And you're going to have to beat them in their building in January, because they're going to wrap up this division. Now, could the Rams jump them? Yeah, absolutely. Yeah. But that game in September looms large. Special teams loom large. for the Rams.
And by the way, we underrate special teams. We underrate special teams. The Eagles are always good at that.
Always.
Right? And that's one of the reasons.
Yeah.
That's one of the reasons they're always good. One thing I want to say about Howie, I agree with you. There's a long list of moves that don't work, but I think that the fact that he doesn't put much capital into those moves is the point.
Right.
Jahan Dotson is a good example where you just say, hey, we're going to take a flyer on this guy. It's trace-based. We liked him out of college. Let's see what we have. Oh, he didn't work? Who cares? that to me, they take a flyer in a really good, they never overpay. They don't do, we see some of these teams now where it's like, oh, we need James Pierce so badly. We're going to trade a top 5 pick for him, whatever. Like, it's just,
how'd that work out?
They never, I always go to the Billy Bean line from Moneyball, where he says, if you have to do something, you're screwed. Okay. The Eagles never operate from that way, nor do Billy Bean. They operate like they're going to run the organization for 100 years, and that 20 years from now is just as important as next year. And I think that's important. And I think the more teams should learn from that.
Yeah, I totally agree with you. Absolutely. Run it like an NBA team. You don't like this guy? Get him out. Overpay? Sure, overpay. But then guess what? My assets are probably overrated. So you're going to pay me more to get a guy that probably isn't worth as much as I value him. And it works.
The whole reason they're good now works. Is because they got out of Carson Wentz's deal. They just saw Carson Wentz at some cost.
Exactly. They were able to win with a second-round quarterback, and then you pay him, get ahead of the market, paying him as well. And yeah, right now it's working. All right. We'd be remiss, and we'd probably have the social media editors scream at us if we did not touch the Shedeur Sanders rail. So I'm just going to roll it out there and go wherever you want to go. I'm just going to say Shedeur Sanders against the Raiders. Kevin, take it wherever you want to take it.
I think that the Browns are going to win. I was waiting for a reaction from you on that.
I do too. I do too. I thought you were going to go. I thought you could have gone into some deep socio.
No, I just wanted to see where your face. I just wanted to see where your face was going to go on that, and then I was going to go off of it. They're going to win because they have an abysmal offensive line, and they're going and the Raiders can't score, and the Browns will be able to do something. They have a running game. Okay, the Shedeur part of it. I think I had Chase Daniel on my show this week, and he had a great breakdown on it where basically he said it's he was putting impossible situations are wrong phrase.
It was really good,
but it's about what he expected in the sense that when you're Shedeur Sanders, you're either not practicing or you're running scout team, and you're somebody else every single week. He was joking. He was like, Shedeur was probably Lamar Jackson all week running the Ravens offense and not running the Browns offense. I don't think anybody gets coming in cold. You're not being prepped to start. You're not getting the tape study that the starter would get that's tailored toward you, all that stuff, right? And the point that I think that gets lost in all of this was, as Chase said, is that Zach Orr, the Ravens defensive coordinator, went out of his way to throw the kitchen sink at Shedeur and call blitzes that Dylan Gabriel did not get. And maybe, I'm sure that Joe Burrow could have looked at those defenses and thrown 6 straight touchdowns, right? Because I'm sure they weren't that crazy to an NFL veteran who could diagnose coverage really quickly. But to see all of those guys, the simulated pressures at the front, and then the guys backing out, Shedeur had no chance and some of those. Okay. Having said that, I still think if Woozy doesn't knock that ball out of the hands, that could have been a touchdown there. Harold Fannin had a bad drop. There were a couple of ways Shedeur could have won this game. Then the conversation around Shedeur is just completely changed, right? Like completely. We're talking about him as Tebow 2.0. He's Mr. Winner. All he does is win. Like there's a world in which there's a multiverse world somewhere in which we're having that conversation right now. And so I think it's on Kevin Stefanski, who a coach I really, really, really like. I think it's on Kevin Stefanski to get Shedeur ready very quickly, to get him to a point where those kind of pressures don't scare him. And if the Raiders are going to throw the kitchen sink, giving him quick answers at every single level of the defense to say, hey, if there's a simulated pressure, we're just going to do this. We're just going to do this outlet pass. Lots of quick game screens to keep them honest. Like, I think there's a way to scheme Shedeur knowing what he does well, which is he has touch, he has accuracy, he doesn't have a great deep ball. There's a way to scheme a win here for Kevin Stefanski and Tommy Rees.
Yeah, I agree with you. And I'm glad you kept it to football there, because the other conversation, and we can go, well, I mean, it's feeding the entire NFL media machine right now. Also, one last thing. Your conversation with Kevin Stefanski last year at the league meetings about Pearl Jam, must-see content. Go look for it.
He's a no-code guy.
Yeah.
That's his favorite album.
You got him to open up, though, about music. Seriously, that's like, last year I was doing a coach's interview with him, and it was the Rock and Roll Hall of Fame weekend, and I listed like all the bands going in, like, hey, like, give me your favorite out of these. He's like, well, I like them all. I'm like, come on.
Wow.
So you got him to talk Pearl Jam, man. That's good stuff. Yeah. It's good stuff. I love you, man. I kept you too long. I appreciate you doing this.
You didn't?
No, you did. I kept you too long.
I don't know how long I was to be on this show.
No, this is great. There was no parameters. I'm just saying now that we got to squeeze it into our hour show. So you're going to be a huge chunk of it. And that makes it good content. And I appreciate you for that.
That's all we're asking for. I should keep going. Just go for the hour. All right. Thanks, buddy.
Great stuff there from Kevin Clark. And I do mean it. Like, I have a short list of people other than, of course, C-Rob and Jory and Frank. But when I say, hey, always read, always watch Kevin Clark, Jordan Rodriguez, Dan Pompey, people like that, people whose work I love. And it's great to have Kevin on the show. Time for one more thing before we go. I'm going to go first. It was revealed this week that Stephon Diggs has been playing with a jacked up finger for a while here, but he's still playing great football for Drake May and the Patriots. May was asked about that finger injury today.
That's probably dramatic. Every time he lays on the ground and acts like he just got hit by an 18-wheeler or something. So he's awesome. I think just try to throw catchable ball. That goes with being accurate. He's awesome. He's got great hands. He's one of the best hands I've seen. He's effortless catching it. When it gets cold out, he likes to catch it more with his body. But he's when the lights are on, he's got one of the best hands in the league. And anywhere you've seen all the catches he's made, back of the end zone, toe tap, sideline. No, it doesn't matter. He's making the catches. A lot of trust with me throwing his way, and he's been fun to play with.
Pretty cool. Yeah, little shot there at his guy Stephon Diggs, but a loving one. And by the way, Drake, I see it. I do believe you when you tell me what shows you do and do not watch. Charles, what's your one more thing?
Well, the Eagles right now, we keep hearing, like, how many times has this been reported? There's frustration with Jalen Hurts right now, right? It's always the Jalen Hurts conundrum continues to pop up. Whether they're winning games, whether they're losing games, there always seems to be some white knuckling and hand wringing about Jalen Hurts. And Jason Kelce went on 94 WIP in Philly, and I thought it was really interesting. Got emotional, but he really talked about the state of the locker room and football players as competitive human beings and what that brings out of you. Take a listen. It's pretty interesting.
I think the quotes on Jalen, I think that there are frustrations within a team that build up continually. And I think Jalen gets a lot of the highlighting of that, again, because he's the quarterback. Me and Lane Johnson one year, I'll put this out there. Me and Lane Johnson one year at the end of Chip Kelly's career, Lane made a comment in the media, said something along the lines of, we're the up-tempo offense is way too hard on us in practice, and we're working too difficult, and guys are getting fatigued. And I remember reading that, and I'm like, dude, and I went out and said something in the media and said, what does Lane know? Lane's only been with the Philadelphia Eagles. How does he know what it feels like to do other practices? He's only practiced with Chip Kelly. So he's saying something and parroting something from what other guys are saying. And, like, to be honest, I think we're pretty pampered here in Philadelphia. And Lane then made another comment. Lane and I didn't talk for an entire offseason.
Wow.
Lane is like one of my best friends. Like, I love that guy. And this is part of being on a team. There are so many ups and downs. And, like, I've gotten into yelling matches with Jeff Stoutland, a guy that I consider almost like a father. This thing brings out emotions and sides of people because you all want to win so bad.
The stakes are so high.
And, I hate seeing this. And the only way out of this, and I mean this fully, and the only way, like, you talk to people. You be accountable. You try and work this out. It's not that much different than what you do in your marriage, right? Like you try to be accountable to what you're doing wrong, what you're failing in. You try to take accountability to alleviate the burden off of other people. These are the ways you maintain relationships and maintain a team functionality. And I think that, there's been reports of this over 2 or 3 years, and the team has still been massively successful. I think that by and large, the body of work that Jalen has put out there, you can't deny, in my opinion. And I think that you have to continue to work through this. And the only way to do that is to be accountable and to try and work together and maintain these relationships in a healthy way.
It's good stuff.
I thought that was, it was good stuff. And part of me wonders how much of that might have been directed at AJ Brown. The idea of you got to talk to each other. It's a marriage. You got to work on it.
Well, AJ was asked today, or it was somehow the question or the statement to him today in the locker room along the lines of, well, maybe, are you the same player you were last year? And he kind of pushed back, well, I guess Saquon's not the same player then either, huh? So, and I'm only seeing the tweet, but, the implication being, guys, it's not all me. There are things here, like last week, there are things here that we could all talk about. As Jason Kelce strongly suggests, couples therapy for everybody's relationship. Clearly. So we as a group here, as a show, will continue to talk things out and have open dialogue. And we welcome all of you to listen to and to watch our open dialogue. See, Rob, it's been fun this week, man. Have a great weekend. Enjoy your week 12.
Yeah, absolutely. You too, man.
All right. For Charles Robinson, for Ben Fox, for Jory Epstein, for Frank Schwab, today for Kevin Clark, for everyone that's been on the show, for our producer, Madison Sanders, thanks for listening and watching this week. We thank you all. Enjoy your Week 12. My name is Andrew Siciliano. This is Inside Coverage. We'll see you.